Just making sure that we are live. I think we are. Just gonna double check before we get into it. If you're coming on board, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's have a look. There we are. Welcome on this beautiful autumny, almost wintry night. And let's have a look. We are, looks like we're live. Don't you love modern technology? Okie dokie. Okie dokes. Here we are. So welcome everybody, and thanks for joining me. As promised, tonight we're going to have a juicy conversation. We're going to be talking about how to get what you want in love with men without being needy or a nag. And I tell you, those kind of terminologies can be a little bit of a trigger for some of us. I hate being called a nag, and I hate the idea of feeling like I'm being needy or not allowed to be needy. And that's precisely why I talk about it, because, I mean, let's face it, if you've ever been in a relationship with a man before, it often comes up that we feel like we're being a nag, trying to get them to do things all the time, and we feel like we're being a nag. They might have called us a nag. We don't like being called that. Men don't like it when women are nagging them all the time, but hey, more importantly, we don't like that feeling, and we don't nag because we like it. We find ourselves having to constantly ask for things that again and again and again and again, and we feel like we're being a mother. We don't like that. They don't like that. Nobody likes it. And, it kind of feels like, well, it's a bit of a catch-22, or we're caught between a rock and a hard place, right? Because what do we do then? Just not have our needs met or not talk about what we want? And then at the other end of the stick, when we're single, and we want to date somebody, like just simply go on a date with them. Maybe we've connected with somebody, or we're chatting on an app and we want to go on a date with them, and we find ourselves again stuck between a rock and a hard place. Yes, we're modern women and we can be the one to ask men out on a date or ask them to take it to the next level, but what we really start to understand, especially if you've done any work with me, especially if you've gone into the love codes at all, is that we want to stay in that feminine polarity, not because we're not allowed to be the one to ask and to do, but as soon as we step into the one who's giving the directions, then the men can easily fall into the place of being the one to follow, and then we don't know if they're how interested they are, and sometimes then they can give up taking the lead, and we don't like that either. So we want to be able to inspire the men in our lives to give us what we want. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I think up front we need to really get and understand that men don't like us nagging and mothering and telling and constantly going on, and we don't like it either. So there has to be a better way, and I promise you that there is a better way. And the thing is, look, here's the issue. The issue is that when we say what we want, or when we put forward our desires, why do men, not just do it? Why don't they do it all the time? Hi, Catherine. Thanks for joining, honey. Talking about getting our needs met, right? And doing it in a way that is full of grace and makes both parties happy. And really, the thing is that when a man is asked to do something, let's say we ask him to, I don't know, be the one who thinks of where to go for dinner one night. And he might do it that one time, but the problem occurs that they forget to keep doing it, and then we feel like we have to keep on asking, and that's where it kind of gets into that feeling of being like a nag. And the reason that this happens is because when we ask somebody to do something for us, when we ask a man to do something for us, he'll do it if he's a decent human being. We've asked nicely, but he hasn't chosen it within himself. And when somebody chooses to do something within themselves, what happens is that there's a psychological change. They internalize that process of choice, and it becomes an innate action for them. And this is just human nature. So when we tell a man to do something for us, it might happen once and then it gets forgotten. We end up having to keep on saying it again. And this is not ideal. And a really good example of this, it always reminds me of when I first trained as a therapist 25 years or more ago. And when we started, when you first start working with clients and you can see what's going on for them, and it would be really easy for me to sit in front of a person back then and say, okay, well, you're doing this, and this, and you need to change and start being this way and being that way. But my mentors and my teachers, told us that if you do that to a client, if you tell them what's going wrong and how to do things differently, they'll do it. But the internal change doesn't occur for them, so it never becomes innate, and they have to keep coming back to see you, and that's not the point. And it's exactly the same when you're trying to get a man to offer you a particular behavior. If you just tell him to do it, he might do it once, but because he hasn't had that internal change for it to be innate and for him to own it, it's not going to keep happening, and you're going to find yourself having to keep on saying it again and again, being that kind of naggy voice that we don't want to be. The other problem is that, and this is the really big thing, is that when we tell a man, just tell him what we want and what to do and how to do it, we really give him two choices. We push him into a place where he only can choose one of these two things. And the first one of that is to say yes. Clearly the two choices are to say yes or no. But what happens is if the man says yes to the thing that we're telling him to do, then because he wants to, right? Men actually want to give you what you want. Men actually want to make women happy. That lights them up. So when a man says yes to your request or to the thing that you tell them to do, he is giving you the thing that you want in that moment. What happens to him is he feels just a little bit emasculated. There's just a little part of him that his capacity to choose for himself, his capacity to be the leader and the director of the ship has been kind of taken away a bit by him saying yes. And, this is important for men. Men need and want to feel like your hero. And let's face it, we want them to be our hero too, right? So if he says yes, you get what you want in that moment, but he feels a little bit emasculated. And the more and more this happens, the more and more he kind of steps out of that beautiful masculine strength, and the less and less we feel attracted to him. So this isn't a good outcome. The second option he has is to say no. And if he says no to you, the great thing about that is that he saves that sense of his own directiveness and his own sense of self and masculinity. And that's great. But him saying no to your request drives a wedge between you, both because he wants to actually give you what you want. So by him saying no to you, he's actually making himself unhappy. And at the same time, it's making you unhappy, clearly, because you're not going to get what you want. But he does save that sense of directiveness and masculinity, so you remain attracted to him. And that sounds like it could be a good thing, but it's often not, because in a situation where a man's saying no to you all the time, but you're still attracted to him, this is kind of where the whole idea of we're always attracted to the bad ones comes from. And this is for a whole other session to talk about. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I've written about that a lot on my blog, so go and have a look if you haven't before. We unpack that a lot in the love codes. We really learn how to rewire that part of ourselves that are attracted to the men who say no, that are attracted to the men who are the bad boys. But that's where kind of this stems from. So both those options for a man are bad. They're bad for him and they're bad for you. If you tell him to do it this way, this is what needs to happen, he says yes, then he's slightly emasculated, we lose interest, the dynamic is shifted, he says no, and there's a wedge that's driven between you because neither of you are getting what you want. So the next step there really is to ask, well, okay, that all makes sense. So how do we get what we want then? If we can't get what we want by asking for it outright and telling them how to do it, if that's going to they're going to do it once and then not again and we become a nag, or if we say it to them outright to do it this way and they've got two choices, if they say no, then we're going to drive a wedge between us, and if they say yes, that we're going to lose that polarity and that deep sense of attraction and connection. So what do we need to do? Well, the first thing that we need to do is create a little bit of a bedrock of understanding, and that is to really understand, first of all, as women, we need to really understand that men want to make us happy. They genuinely do. not just in their conscious mind, but unconsciously they want to. Men have this, are compelled for the woman that they're with or the women around them to make them happy. That our happiness is so important to them that if we're unhappy, they take it personally, even if it's not their fault. And in the same breath, when we are happy, they kind of take it personally too, which is fine. But it's so important to them that they make us happy. When they're making us happy, they feel like they're the hero. They feel like the winner. They feel like they've got the prize, because it's one of the most mysterious things in the world to them is how to make a woman happy. And men are adventurous creatures at heart. They need to be a hero. They need to overcome challenges to feel like they're living their fullest potential. So they want to make us happy. We need to know that. We need to accept that. We need to really just let that sink into our minds and into our bodies and into our hearts. Men want to make you happy. Now, the other thing is that we need to look at, then once we know that, so that we understand how to get what we want, is to remember, to understand what we just talked about a little earlier, is that they need to be enrolled into making that choice. That means we can't just tell them to do it, because it will only maybe happen once and not again. But when they get to make that choice for themselves, there's that old kind of cliche that make a man think it was his own decision and then he'll do it. Well, there was a bit of wisdom in our foremothers. It's true, but not because of some outdated cliche idea of what men are, because the psychology of any human being is that when they choose it for themselves, they're more married to the idea. It becomes part of their psyche, and so they're going to own it and do it more. So instead of telling them what to do, they need to be enrolled. So men want to make us happy, and they need to be enrolled to make that choice for themselves. The next thing, and this is really the big clincher, and that is that, how I'm going to say this, that is that men want to make us happy. Okay, so the best way to get a man enrolled, so get them to choose it for themselves, to want to give you the thing that you want without directly telling them how to do it, is to let them know how it makes you feel when they do X behavior, whatever the behavior is that you're really wanting, that you're after, that you're looking to get more of. Letting them know how that behavior makes you feel. And, a little kind of clue here is that it makes you feel happy. But happy is one very kind of general way to describe how it makes you feel. But we're looking in that kind of sphere of things and it makes you happy. So for now, let's just say it makes you happy. So telling your man, a man, how the behavior that you want from them makes you feel happy, or a particular type of happy, makes the world of difference. I promise you this. I have seen this change for me in my own marriage. I have seen this change for countless women who've done my full Love Codes program training. And this changes for women who are single and wanting to date, and the changes happen for women who are in relationship for 6 months, and even for women who are in relationship for 25 to 30 years. This one simple thing changes lives. So I really want you to take this in. If you can say to your man, so let me give you an example, okay? Okay, here's a really good one. My husband went away recently, and when he came back, he brought a gift for our son, which he does because our son's 5, and that's how he's okay with daddy going away. And this time, however, my husband brought me back a gift, and it was so great. I love getting presents, and I didn't know that in the past, but I do now. And he brought it for me, not just because I asked him to, because I didn't ask him to. But what did happen was, a little while ago, he brought me back a little gift when he was out. And it was nothing major. It was a little box of chocolates because I was feeling a bit down. And when he brought it back to me, I said to him, thank you. Thank you so much for that gift. He gave it to me and I said, thank you, like normal. But then later on, I went up to him and I said, baby, thank you so much for giving me that gift. It made me feel really special. Like, I don't know, it felt like you were thinking about me, and it made me feel kind of like when we first were dating, and it's just made me so happy. Thank you. And I said it twice. So again, after that. And this planted the seed for him. He saw how his action made me feel happy. And he has then been doing little things to keep that up. And when he went away recently, he came back with a really great, beautiful, big gift. And I was able to thank him again and show him how happy that made me feel. And what's happening now is I'm reinforcing that behavior, and it keeps on happening. And this has happened for me with gifts. Gifts are a small thing for some people. It's not like a deep and meaningful thing, but for some people it's important. For some people it's part of the love language that they have, that they need, or that helps them to feel loved. And another really great one, and I think this is a really good example actually. I had I have a student who has been in my course, and she was in a relationship with this man only for a short period of time, and the relationship was fine, except she found that she started to be doing more of the domestic work than he did. Now I know that a lot of women can relate to that, and she tried to get him to help. So she, made a thing where he does dinner this many times a week, and he did it, but then he didn't. And then she had to kind of tell him what to make, and it just wasn't really working. So I spoke to her about it, and we put a little thing in place where she did a little bit of a test. And she said to him one night, she sat him down and she said, baby, when you make dinner for me, what did she say? That's right. She said, when you make dinner for me, I get to chill out, go and have a bath, read my book, and I just relax. And I feel like myself again. I don't feel like I'm that working person. I feel like I'm just my beautiful self, and I get to be fully relaxed. And then I just feel like so much more available to listen to you and to want to have cuddles and hang out. Guess what? Guess what he started to do? He made dinner the next night. He chose what to make. He made it happen, and he made dinner for her, and it was on the table. And I can promise you now, she made sure that she followed it up by showing him how happy it made her. She told him, thank you so much, and told him how happy it made her. And she really let herself receive that and really embody that thanks and that feeling of happiness. And that for him was the greatest gift. And he has since been making dinner regularly. He doesn't do it every night, and she doesn't want him to, but at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, he's making dinner now. She doesn't need to ask him anymore, but she does need to keep saying thank you and reinforcing how it makes her feel. Now, the thing is that this change, it's so juicy and real, and I promise you that it makes the biggest difference. And like any change, it takes a little bit of practice. Sometimes it takes a little bit of, having a community around you to reinforce it, and certainly making those internal changes. But it is real. And I promise you, if you give it a go, you'll start to see some changes happening for you in your relationship. Every woman I know who applies this has a dramatic shift, whether it be in their dating life or in their current relationship. And this whole concept of getting what you want in a relationship with ease and grace is just a little part of a bigger code called invisible influence, which is one of the codes that we go deeply into in the Love Codes program. And that's one of 5. There's 5 full codes, and I will be unpacking some more of these codes in some further masterclasses and videos. But we do have a new program running. It's starting soon. I think it's the 22nd of June. So we have a special promotion that's going, the early bird special, but it does stop on the 30th of June. I think you get 20% off. It's a massive discount. I decided to do that because I want to create a time frame where it makes it accessible to everybody, because every woman needs this information. So if you are interested in looking further into the Love Codes program and you'd like to join us, then I will share a link in the comments. So just click that and you can follow it through. Or if you're interested in it but you want a little bit more information, I'll leave an email address too, so you can email us and we can set up a time to have a chat if you want to have a chat before going any further. But thank you so much for listening to this, and I really just want you to play play with this. Try it out. Try it out on the guy who makes your coffee. Try it out on your husband. And let us know how you go, because, you know, we're all in this together. And there's one thing I can tell you after 25 years as a love and relationship specialist, and that is that we all have the same issues. We all have the same challenges in relationship. I promise you, even the couple that you think is amazing, they're having the same or very similar issues. So share this information with people who you know will benefit from it, and ask the questions. Share with us what's going on for you and let us help. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Hope to see you all soon.